Hello, Mr. Lim.
Hello.
Is your house at Jalan Duta still available?
Yes. Dalam house ni available, boss.
The price is 800,000, right? Why the price is increasing? Because the last time I saw the price was 400,000.
Expensive ah. Or before this, when I bought the house, the price was lower. But right now, the price is getting higher, boss, because the property also getting higher currently. Yes. Right now, I'm not staying there, boss. I'm staying at another place. I just bought the house for this purpose only. It's okay, boss. If you stay at the house, you can call me, okay?
Actually, I was interested to buy, but I guess I have to forget my intention after seeing the new price.
Okay, thank you, boss. Okay, bye.
Okay, thank you.
The video before is one of the major issues of housing in Malaysia. So, let's get started on our online forum. I am Aqil, an accounting lecturer from IIUM, and will be hosting our forum for today. So today, we have Mr. Badrul, Minister of Home and Local Government, Mr. Nuqman, a representative from PPIM, and Darwish from IIUM. Since 2012, the government of Malaysia has focused on building more affordable houses for Malaysians. Many housing schemes have been established by the state government or federal government, such as Rent to Own, RTO, Residency Wilayah Rumawip, and Rumah Selangorku. However, various issues arise in providing affordable houses to Malaysians, especially for lower income and medium income groups.
Bila cakap pasal pandangan saya pasal segi perumahan kan, saya tunjuk terus ada dekat rumah saya.
Cik tunjuk, okey.
Saya cukup tak puas hati dengan overall segi perumahan kat Malaysia. Bila saya bayar, saya dapat rumah yang kecil satu, tak bertepatan dengan janji. Maintenance tak ada, facility teruk, sampah, pengurusan sampah teruk. Overall memang saya tak puas hati lah. Jadi saya harap kerajaan Malaysia ni boleh perbaiki lagi skim perumahan kat Malaysia ni supaya rakyat Malaysia dapat harga yang setimpal dengan apa yang mereka bayar.
The scene before also mentioned one of the major issues in Malaysia. So before we go deeper on the housing analysis, I will briefly explain major issues of housing in Malaysia. The first one is that property prices in Malaysia are overpriced and still too expensive. According to the analysis, the prices continue to rise at an unacceptable pace despite the introduction of the National Housing Policy 2.0 and many home ownership campaigns. There are several factors that contribute to this problem, which are product mismatch, the slow growth of income, rising cost of building homes, and quotas. The prices are not able to meet the demand of the majority household, especially in urban areas. This problem has led to oversupply issues of the house.
Now we move to the statistics and data of housing in Malaysia. So, according to the National Property Information Centre, NAPIC, for the first half of 2019 on the oversupply issue, 32,810 units of properties are overhand units. Overhand units means that properties that are new and completed properties that not being sold after 6 months of their completion. Of the overhand amount, Johor has the highest number of overhand units, 18.8%, followed by Kuala Lumpur, 14.9%, Perak, 17.6%, and Selangor, 12.9%. Besides that, the radar statistic also shows housing affordability index. So this study uses median multiple approach and median price to provide an affordability index on every state in Peninsular Malaysia. As we can see in the diagram, prices of houses in Malaysia are seriously unaffordable even in big cities and other states in Malaysia. This study also has considered the median of income in every state.
The overpriced house may be influenced by the violation of rights. T20 groups tend to buy houses first not for their accommodation but for selling back with additional markup. The private developers have the control over market of housing in city area and able to sell to this group of people. Aside from the prices being very expensive, construction also does not meet standards that guarantee good quality over the life of a project. Urban housing problems normally arise when the developers in urban areas have less interest in building medium and low-cost housing due to small profit gain. The prices offered were already above the purchasing power of M40 and B40, and then the houses were bought by T20 with intention to sell back to them with some profit. This has led to oversupply problems as mentioned before. The second issue is high rise of low-cost housing in urban area. There is an overview of low-cost housing policy in Malaysia to help the welfare of the needy. But many housing projects have failed because of lack of knowledge on the determinants of residential satisfaction. These are the issues addressed on this low-cost housing based on Kuala Lumpur Structure Plan. They are low space standard, high maintenance costs, poor quality of construction, and management and anti-social behavior. All these issues will directly affect the family housing needs, comfort, social, cultural, and religious needs. For instance, Muslims are not able to perform congregational prayer comfortably. These issues should be addressed by the government to be included in the new policy. Okay, next, I believe the Malaysian government has done enough to tackle all these problems. Mr. Badrul, is there any improvement on the current policy of housing in Malaysia? How are these issues related to those policies?
Thank you, Mr. Tuan Aqil, for inviting me to explain about the national housing policy. To replace the previous housing policy which ended on 2017, National Housing Policy 2018 until 2025 was launched by former Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir on 8 January 2019. The goal of this housing policy is guiding and driving the housing sector by emphasizing planning, development, and systematic housing management and efficiency for generating sustainable, livable, quality, and inclusive houses that people can afford. There are 5 objectives which has been aligned by the Ministry of Housing and Local Government. The objectives are: first, provide a development framework for housing sector to assist government and private parties in providing housing based on requests and needs by each layer of society. Second, strengthen the role of housing sector in conurbation management to promote economic growth and habitable habitat provision. Third, ensure the social provision of the housing sector enjoyed by qualified households. Fourth, encourage diversity of household access to housing through ownership and rental. Lastly, emphasize preparation and maintenance of affordable quality housing by the people. Along with the objective, there are 5 focus to help the government in running the policy. First, ensuring housing quality for all, where the government will develop standards for quality housing to improve the overall quality of housing in this country and improving practice building maintenance to ensure compliance with the standard for quality housing. Second, improve accessibility and ability to own house. The strategy of government is improving the existing housing furnishing scheme to provide inclusive and sustainable solution for low-income groups in accessing the affordable house. Third, ensuring quality and cohesive neighborhood, where the government plans to provide and maintain quality facilities and services in the neighborhood and empower the role and community spirit in strengthening the quality of the neighborhood's environment. Another 2 focus are improving coordination between housing development and transportation for a better quality of life, and lastly, strengthening institutional capabilities to perform National Housing Policy 2018-2025. I believe this policy will help much in terms of providing basic needs to the public.
Thank you, Mr. Badrul. So now, let's hear about the ongoing concern and recommended solution that your side want to propose to the government in order to add up to what Mr. Badrul has said.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Mr. Aqil. So first and foremost, it is my pleasure to sit here with the Minister, YB Badrul, and also our Da'i here, Da'i Megat. So we from PPM has always tried our best to ensure public welfare. Thus, we found out that this problem or concern regarding the current housing policy has several improvements that we can take. So our team have agreed to suggest that to Mr. Badrul and his team 6 possible improvement that his side can look upon. Alright, so the first one, as we can see right now, the neighborhood in this current PHP are suffered in terms of environmental element. This can be seen with the condition of most of the houses that are in nasty condition, if I may use the word. So we can easily scroll our media right now and find few articles regarding this issue. Perhaps one of the suggestions would be to improve logistical services there, and also maybe they can propose some communal work to repaint the building to make these occupants or the residents feel happier. As we all know, a colourful site will improve the psychological side of our brain. Also, perhaps it will lead to improve their efficiencies at work and so on. And this communal work must be done periodically. In terms of mental elements, maybe Mr. Badrul's side can provide again periodical session of counselling to the residents there. Make sure they are in a good mental state with the current situation of us right now. Currently, we are facing with this pandemic of COVID-19. Fortunately, most of them are affected. Alright, so the second point is we found that the poor quality construction is also being an issue, right? So this is the recurring issue with most of the houses here in Malaysia, unfortunately. So to overcome this problem, I really hope that Mr. Badrul's team or the government can improve from the selection of the tender holder or the developers to ensure that they make a good job and emphasize of the quality of the houses made. Maybe the authorities can impose new regulation and law action to those developers who cannot manage to comply with the stated KPI, or maybe they can also do the inspection to those developers on a monthly basis to monitor their job quality. Alright, so number 3, from the investigation made by our team, we found out that there's unhealthy monopoly among the private developers, especially because they focus more on building luxury houses, and as we all know, this means a higher profit margin for them. This also means that they are not following the current demand from the customer from different level of income, because people with different income level might demand different level of house based on their income, right? So, but this is not happening from our point of view, and for this, we suggest that Mr. Badrul's side can impose a strict regulation to those irresponsible developers so that they will match the current demand. Not merely focus on a higher profit margin that they will get on luxury houses. And not only that, our investigation also found out that there's unfair selection of the beneficiaries of the current housing policies. I'll give you an easy example. Alright, so as you can see, in village or in kampung especially, there's a lot of cases where wealthy people with a lot of undeclared amount of income still receive grants or the financial administration from the government. So these are wealthy people that also will apply for any administration such as housing policies from the government. Thus, this will deny the real needy groups the opportunity to be helped. Perhaps government can introduce a better new system where requirement is not just merely based on the official payslip. Right. Next problem. We found that the current policies, it is heavily subsidized the public sector rather than the private sector developer. So public sector developer can produce houses at much lower cost if you want compared to private sector developer. So doing so, it means that the private developer will pass the additional cost to the buyer, and by implementing this type of policy, government is actually discouraging the development of low-cost housing for sale by the private sector lah, because the buyer will go for the cheaper option that has been provided by the public sector developer as they receive the subsidy from the government. So government have to be fair between both developers so that they can provide fair prices to the customers at last. And I hope the government can look again on this proposed solution at last, all of this, we at PPIM have done it for the public welfare. It is merely for the public, and I hope government can take that into consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nuqman. Perhaps the solution will solve the major issues of housing in Malaysia. Now, we have come to the end of our discussion, so let's hear some sharing on SDG and Maqasid Al-Syariah from Da'i Darwish on the housing.
Hi, Assalamualaikum to all. I would like to relate a house issue with Maqasid Syariah. So, Maqasid Syariah is the objective of Syariah, and Syariah derived from Al-Quran and Hadith. There are several categories of Maqasid Syariah, which are Daruriyah, Hajiyah and Tahsiniyah. From my point of view, house is in the category of Daruriyah because we all need at least one house as a shelter. So without Daruriyah, one's life will be severely affected in the world and even hereafter. So there are 5 protection in Daruriyah, and ulama list down based on the priorities. The first one is the protection of religion, followed by protection of life, intellect, lineage and wealth. So it is very clear from here we can see that house is an essential to us, which can protect the 5 elements of Maqasid Syariah to an individual. So other consideration that we need to put before obtaining a house, the safety of the housing area, the maintenance, the affordability for us to pay the house expenses. This is all to protect the life and intellect of the people. As Allah's servant, it's very important for us to obey with Maqasid Syariah in order to give protections and provide maslahah or benefit to the people, and to the house developers, to the owner of the property, to even the government. So they need to consider the house price, the maintenance, the safety and the environment of the house before selling the house or even execute the project. If a household has low income, there are possibilities that they will be stressed and not happy with their life when they cannot live happily after paying the rent or even buying the house, because the remaining money that they have is not enough for them to live happily. Hence, it will affect the protection of wealth and intellect negatively. From the research, young graduates would stay in risky conditions due to housing stress when they have to allocate more than 30% of income in housing costs. And the initiative from the Malaysian government is to provide mortgage reducing term takaful, or we call as MRTT, to the household where the outstanding debt of the house will be offset in the case of the owner is dead, which is die or face permanent disability. So the family member does not have to be worried to pay the debt because the financial institution will offset the debt for them. So the good things for the family member because they can protect the intellectual or Aqil. Okay, and also I would like to relate the housing issue with the initiative from United Nations, which is Sustainable Development Goals, or we call it as SDG. UN adopted SDG in 2015 to aim to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. So one of the goals that we can relate with the housing issue is sustainable cities and communities. So from the UN, the state from the UN, they say that by 2050, 6.5 billion people will be urban, and increasing population and large-scale migration will lead to more megacities, especially in developing countries. Hence, slums will be more relevant in the urban life due to high cost of living. In 2018, 4.2 billion people of the world's population live in cities, and by 2050, the urban people is expected to reach 6.5 billion. And UN target by 2030 ensure access for all to adequate, safe and affordable housing and basic services and upgrade slums, and also to support least developed countries, including through financial and technical assistance in building sustainable and resilient buildings utilizing the local materials. So that's from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Da'i Darwish, for a very nice sharing. Perhaps this online forum will benefit all of us, including ourselves, the government, and the citizens. Thank you to all the panelists for joining our session despite your busy time. Thank you.